Greetings everyone, I'm Karan Aswani and this will be my application for AWS Cloud Captain. Before starting, let us understand what is cloud computing. Well, whenever we want to deploy an application or a website for the world to access, we first need to configure and purchase the underlying infrastructure that actually powers it. That means we have to analyze our demand and growth and purchase the necessary hardware accordingly. This can be costly and very time inefficient. So, we essentially rent computers from someone who already owns it. And it just happens to be that the person renting those computers is called a cloud provider like AWS. The service we will be focusing today is Elastic Beanstalk, a super simplified way to deploy web applications with just a few clicks. That means you can just focus on writing your code and AWS will take care of everything else like servers, networking, load balancing, and even monitoring. Behind the scenes, it's built on AWS core services like EC2, load balancers, auto scaling, and S3, but you don't have to configure them individually. It's like having an assistant who does all the setup while you just focus on building the app. Now, how does it do that? Whenever a Beanstalk environment is created, EC2 instances, that is, the CPU and RAM, are provisioned to execute your application. Load balancers equally distribute the incoming traffic to all of the instances. Auto scaling groups either scale up or scale down the instances based on incoming traffic, and of course, you can monitor all of the logs through CloudWatch. All of this is managed for you by AWS, but what's cool is that you still retain all of the control of every single resource that has been used in this. But what if you want to run multiple versions of the same app? Well, AWS has got you covered. In Elastic Beanstalk, you can run multiple instances of the same application, whether even when they have different frameworks, whether it's Python, Node.js, .NET, etc. You can even bring your own dependencies, and Elastic Beanstalk will change its environment based on the dependencies. For having a better understanding, let's move on to a demonstration. Here I have already logged into my AWS Management Console and we will simply search for Elastic Beanstalk. When you first enter Elastic Beanstalk, you will also be greeted with a similar interface and we will simply create an application. We will be running a web server environment and let's name it as trial. All of the extra details such as environment name and tags will be autofilled. You can leave them as default. And for this demonstration, we will be sticking with a Python web application. You can also upload your existing code base here through a link to an S3 bucket or a local file which you can upload as a zip folder. For this demonstration, we will be sticking with a sample application. We will be using a single instance of EC2 because that comes under free tier, and let's just wait for it. Okay, so for giving access to Beanstalk to different services, we have to create IAM rules for it. Okay, so let's just create a rule for it. You will be transported to your identity access management. Simply search for Elastic Beanstalk. You can search here, it's already present here. Okay, and for the S3 policy, for the environment policy, select the Elastic Beanstalk environment option here and simply click on next, next again, and we will have created a policy for it. Okay, so we have created this AWS Elastic Beanstalk service role. Let's just move on to our environment. Okay, as you can see, when we refresh it, the service role for the environment has been created. Let's create another role for the EC2 instances. Again, we will be directed to the IAM. Again, we will select Elastic Beanstalk, but this time, instead of choosing the environment service, we will choose the compute service. Simply create next. You can always configure it through GUI or through JSON, but the default simply works. Okay, we have also created AWS Elastic Beanstalk EC2 role, and now we are good to go. You can always configure this with this, but that's really not needed unless you are deploying your own code. So let's just skip to review. Okay, all of the information and our public URL will be displayed here, and let's just create it. Now this will take a few minutes to access. So what it essentially does is that through configuration files, you can, I'm sorry, AWS can allot EC2 instances. You can link your S3 buckets for either storing the code or storing your database within that code. Because whenever a Beanstalk environment is deleted, it does not store the data alongside with it. Okay, as soon as we get a green check mark of OK, we are good to go. So when we click on this link, it directs us to the public domain of that. And here is our Elastic Beanstalk web application in Python. Okay, here's a little background information of what we just saw. So when we launched the environment, a single EC2 instance was launched on which our web application was hosted. The incoming traffic would be distributed by the Elastic load balancers, and the configuration of the resources was also managed by AWS. I hope this was great. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a good day.